Hi, today we are going to talk about digital trends and what's coming in 2021. In March, April, Europe received this shock of COVID-19 and everything changed over the night and we found ourselves in totally new reality. But before we go into the trends and what's coming in the next few years, let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm Andraž Štalec, I'm the CEO of Red Orbit. We are a performance marketing agency based in Slovenia. 20 digital experts working across the Europe with different clients. I've been involved in digital since 1995, so what's that, 25 years. So what you will hear today is based on my experience and what I think businesses should focus in the next couple of months. So, little as a joke, but maybe it's true as well, COVID changed only 3 different things. First of all, everybody started to bake bread. If you were not baking bread and posting pictures of your own bread on Instagram, you were just not in the loop anymore. Secondly, everybody started watching Netflix. So this is basically the interest and the growth of Netflix in the past few months, and as we see in April and March, the trend goes up quite a lot. After the lockdown was lifted in our countries, everybody was trying to get somewhere on vacation, and because all the borders were kind of blocked, the interest in building pools at your home went up. So finally, this goes up, of course, each summer, but this year it was really extreme. So joke aside, let's look at what really happened in the background. This is a search volume of all the searches on Google related to making or baking a bread. As we see, the number of searches on monthly basis increased for almost 10 times. And why is this so important? Because in times like this, when economy and basically the whole environment in which we live in changes overnight, you need to be really flexible and agile. And in these cases, related to bread, some of the, let's say, cooks and some of the sites publishing recipes really noticed the trends and were really agile. The first results, as we see on Google, it's basically a recipe for bread, was published on April 13, which is just a few weeks or few days after lockdown was basically taking effect in Slovenia. And these guys basically notice the trend and start writing recipes based on what users were looking for. This ended up in their traffic on the website going up quite a lot. Just adding one recipe related to what people were actually searching for resulted in more than 1,000, almost 2,000 views of this recipe alone per month. So not all of us were actually making bread and baking bread at home. A lot of us were interested in home delivery, and of course it's kind of obvious that in March and in April interest in home delivery went up. What's interesting even more is that as soon as the lockdown was basically removed, this trend went up to the normal stages as what we were seeing in the past few years. It was similar with other recipes. As I was explaining, in March and in April, everybody, because we were in lockdown, was interested in recipes and how to cook at home. And of course, in my opinion, we were all trying to eat healthy. There was COVID-19 outside. We were aiming to remain healthy, eat healthy food, do some sports and so on. And I was really shocked when we look at the trends and we saw that Slovenians and Europeans are not so healthy or focused with the diet. So the red line represents all the topic related to healthy diets. So it could be recipes, could be other suggestions, stuff like that. And the blue line is pancakes. So pancakes are still much more popular than the whole healthy food and healthy diet. So we are not eating healthy at all. On the other hand, Interest in restaurants went really down during the lockdown. Of course, they were all, or majority of them were closed, and then it quickly recovered. So in early June, mid-June, we are back to the basics and back to the same trend that we were expecting and seeing in the previous years. Why are those trends so important? Because based on the trend that we see from restaurants, recipes, home delivery, we can actually see in which stages of recovery from this pandemic specific country, specific industry is. So we look at Slovenia. This is the graph of how Slovenians are moving around the country based on locations from their mobile phones. Are they staying home a bit more, going to retail shops and recreation, groceries, parks, and so on? As we see, we have clearly 4 different stages. Pre-COVID-19, where the trends are quite normal, and then during the lockdown, when everybody was staying home and everything else was below the normal line, and then we have back to the life period where the lockdown was lifted, and we were trying to, let's say, get used to this new reality, and then we have life after COVID, which is basically from June on in Slovenia, where people actually are now somehow adapted to the new reality. They know that they need to take some precautions. They are going out more and stuff like that. If we zoom in and just compare how people where are they locating in terms of workplaces / offices and residential areas, we see that basically we were almost back to the normal in early June. Then the workplaces trend went down, especially because of vacation, and where we are almost back to normal in September. There are huge spikes, and these are Sundays and Saturdays. But as I said, it's different for each country. Slovenia recovered quite fast in terms of going back to the offices. In June, almost everybody was back in the office. Compared to, let's say, UK or other countries, where UK is still not on the same level as they were prior to the corona outbreak. Slovenia is basically there. UK is slowly recovering. They are still around 50% under what they were seeing or experiencing in the same months last year. On the other hand, really important for business is how people are actually moving around different retail shops, recreation areas, groceries, pharmacies, and so on. Here again, we are seeing similar trends. In lockdown, there was a huge drop in people staying or going around these areas. But then after end of May, beginning of June, recreation and retail is back to normal. So we are seeing the same numbers as we were seeing in 2019. But the groceries are a bit down. There are huge spikes down each Sunday, which is somehow related to all shops being closed due to the government restrictions on Sunday. Then in early June or early August, and these spikes are getting smaller because this regulation was lifted. But as we know, government just passed that shops won't be able to, will be closed on Sundays. So we are expecting to see these spikes again. And this is basically really affecting walk-ins in different shopping areas. So they will see a huge drop in transit over there. Based on that, what we can claim is that shopping behavior is changing, and there was some audit done during the summer in Europe, and based on that audit, 83% of shoppers say that their online in-store shopping experience will change a lot, which brings us or leads to huge changes in total overall shopping behavior. On the one hand, online, people are moving online, starting to buy more and more stuff online, but the experience or shopping experience in online is totally different than it's compared to the offline experience. We don't have this huge stores, huge groceries and stuff like that. When you can actually pick different products, you can only see, and usually people search for one product they are looking for. So if your product, your brand is not top of mind, that people have clear expectations or clear indications that they are searching for your product, this could be a huge issue for you. So you need to work on that. On the other hand, you need to develop and build on your digital USPs or unique selling proposition, because maybe your selling proposition of your business was that your, I don't know, personnel is really well educated, your location is really top notch, you have lots of walk-ins and stuff like that. But all these USPs are gone when people are accessing your website or your e-commerce online. So you need to think about what's your digital USP. And the last thing is, because people are shopping in a different matter, brand loyalty could be on a back seat. People are more interested in trusting relationship and stuff, items, products being on stock and being able to deliver. So although they could be really loyal to you in the past, if you have a bad user experience on the website, if you're not present online at all, they will just go to the next best retailer or manufacturer and buy the product there. This means that the communication channels are completely mixed. So in the past, lots of people were actually driving to their offices, driving to the work or to the shops, and paying a lot or listening a lot to radio and stuff like that. This media mix got completely mixed, especially when we are talking about BTL, so promotion or presentation of specific products. It could be in store or could be in the fairs, trade shows and so on. These are all cancelled. So how can you now present your own product? So more and more people and more companies are turning to online for virtual shopping experience, presenting their products on YouTube, explaining and stuff like that, because they know that in the next couple of months, if not a year and a half, trade shows will be cancelled and they need to talk to their audience. What I'm trying to say is that online is the new normal. If you are online, that's great. If you're not online, it's a disaster, and people won't be forgiving. So wherever you are, whenever you're ready or not, you should be online. There are 4 different main types of online shoppers. The first time or the first group could be retirees whose life hasn't really changed in the past because they're at home, their financial status didn't get worse, and except of this limited social content, it basically they're living the same life. The next group is working from home. So this group is basically busy adjusting to their new type of life. So working from home, buying a lot online, and this basically is the best group that people should focus on. They have the financial power, they didn't lose any salaries or stuff like that, and they are willing to, or their lives are changing, so they are willing to spend on that. Then we have people who were let go and so on. These are, let's say, in a bit less or a bit worse financial situation. They have a bit more time, so again, they are looking into different possibilities, they are interested in educating themselves, they are looking for new job opportunities and so on. And then the last group is life as usual. People who are still out there working as they did in the past, their lives didn't change at all, with some limited restrictions from the government. The second qualification of users online we could do is basically the ones who shopped in the past. So a lot of users shopped in the past online, but there are numerous new users who were online in the past, but they didn't do any shopping. But because of the lockdown, they were kind of forced to start shopping online as well. And we did some research, and there's around 600,000 users in Slovenia only who were exposed to this situation for the first time during the lockdown in April and May in Slovenia. So 6,000 additional potential shoppers in a small country of Slovenia. In terms of the COVID and the development of this pandemic, I think we are moving forward from this phase of anxiety, which was from February to April. We were all shocked what's going on. We didn't know what to expect and so on. Then we slowly moved to phase of adjustment in April and May. Okay, we kind of figured it out, what's expected from us, what's going on, what's safe and what's not safe, to the phase of balancing where we are today. And it's from June on. And in this phase, basically, there are two shifts that are really important. So what happened from beginning of this COVID outbreak is that we moved from this third space to 1/3 of the space, which means that in the past we had at least three different, let's say, spaces where we spend our lives. First was, of course, this home rest, relaxation area. The second was home domestic production. The third area was work/offices. And then we had this third space. So one is home, one is work, and third space could be something related to all your hobbies or going out, restaurants, recreation, and so on. But because of the COVID, because of all the restrictions and all the lockdown, this huge space, or these three different spaces, shrink to 1/3 of space. We were stuck at home with the whole family, the kids and so on, and we were really limited in terms of the movement. And because of that, our, let's say, needs shifted from searching for travel and tourism and going outside for a movie night and so on, to, as we saw at the beginning of my presentation, cooking, groceries and stuff like that, and Netflix, watching movies. What people actually did is they went on the Maslow hierarchy of needs. They went from top self-actualization to basically the bottom two. Physical needs: I need water, I need food, I need toilet paper, of course, and safety needs in terms of the medicine and so on. And slowly now we are moving up to the on this pyramid of our needs. So consumers went from asking themselves, is it safe to go outside? Is it safe to travel? Is it safe to go to groceries, to shops, to office? To assessing, is it worth it? So is it worth to go outside to risk a bit of my health, risk of infection, because we know we cannot stay in for forever? And different countries here are in different phases. So as we see, UK is still really in a stay-at-home phase. Retail, they are going much less in retails and outside that they're in Germany, which is basically on the same level they were prior to the COVID. And Slovenia and Croatia are really going out, especially Croatia. They don't pay any attention based on this location data to these restrictions, and they are going out for retails and restaurants quite a lot. And this brings us to a model. So we have two different dimensions. One is, where are we staying? So mobility. Are we going out on the third space, or are we staying in 1/3 of space? And the second dimension is basically, what's our mindset? Is it safe, or are we a bit scared of what's going outside, or are we open-minded and we are thinking, is it worth to go outside? Based on these two dimensions, we can define 4 different types of consumers. One are open to go outside, they're willing to risk it. One are optimistic but still staying inside, and they're trying to, let's say, think about when they are going to go outside a bit more. One are curious, and one are cautious. Based on those 4 different segments, we need to adapt our marketing as well. So the ones that are optimistic, let's say, we need to actually drive their intention about decision making, feeling good about and positive thoughts about their changes in their lives. The ones that are curious, the curiosity drives their decision making, and they're a bit pragmatic about going outside and what's going on with their lives. We can, on the same dimensions, we can map different countries as well. So in this case, I was mentioning the, let's say, interest about recipes and a restaurant, and we can assess based on these trends where a specific country or part of the country is. And we see that Italians are quite outgoing, Slovenians as well, but UK and US are much more playing much more safe because they are a bit more traditional in that maybe, and COVID outbreak is still a huge part of their lives. But that being said, not the whole country is the safe. In this case, we see that parts of Italy are really open-minded. The blue parts are going out a bit more or much more, going to the restaurants, and the blue parts, or the red parts, the red region of the Italy is still playing a bit more safe, staying in, searching for recipes quite more. These two dimensions define the context and the message of your advertising as well, so we should pay attention to what we are saying and how are we saying it, what we are showing on our ads. Basically, there was a joke going around in end of March around Twitter, who led the digital transformation of your company, and majority of, let's say, participants said COVID-19, because yes, it's true. For years, companies were talking about we need to do some digital transformation, we need to transform our company, and they were quite slow in adapting. And now COVID was the main driver. And if we look at the trend, we see that the increase in transactions online went basically increasing 4 times the speed it was increasing in the past few years. That's the green line. So actually the COVID was a great amplifier of all the changes. The issue is that majority of companies, they're still, let's say, only investing in traditional digital channels like paid advertising, content marketing, social media marketing, and so on. All these tactics are great and necessary, but they won't make a huge impact on your business. What we should be focusing on is more new tactics like conversion rate optimization, prescriptive analytics, chatbots, video advertising, content marketing, and so on. These are the tactics, these are the channels who will actually impact the business growth and growth in transaction, growth in lead generation much more than the previous ones. As I mentioned, the media mix changed quite a lot. This is why we are investing quite a lot in marketing mix modeling, which actually enables, and it's kind of data processing combined with machine learning, and we take a lot of data, how users are basically behaving, and actually we can predict which digital channels or which offline channels let's say contribute to the end result much more than the others. So based on that, you can align or adapt your budget split a bit differently compared to what COVID changed on the marketing mix itself. We are living in times of change, and this is the graph of user growth, internet user growth for the last 10 or 12 years. As we see on the green columns, number of users is still increasing, but the growth of users is basically slowing down. And this is worldwide. If we take the Europe into account, basically we don't grow at all. Everybody who has potential to be online in Europe is already online. So number of users in Europe is not growing at all. On the other hand, majority of these users are spending time on mobile. So mobile is the key device, how all of us are accessing content online, and we should pay a huge attention to our mobile experience and what we are doing as a company on mobile devices. On the other hand, e-commerce is really accelerating, and I was quite surprised when in May 2020, so this year, eMarketer did a research of growth, e-commerce growth worldwide, and Central and Eastern Europe is the fastest growing region in terms of e-commerce in retail. So it's growing 21% per year, and it's growing much faster than in Asia and Pacific, which was one of the leading regions in the past few years. Slovenia is growing quite fast as well in terms of e-commerce. The total value of the market is 350 million euros in 2019, and it grew by 13%. The new projected growth for 2020 is 21%. It's quite interesting that more than almost half of the Slovenians had bought at least one product online in 2019. So the market size of Slovenia is basically the same as Croatia in terms of the digital spend and e-commerce revenue. What's the difference is that Slovenia has a higher penetration based on different categories or industries. So more revenue is in percentages generated online in Slovenia than in Croatia. Footwear, apparel, accessories are around 10%. The highest in penetrations are household appliances and consumer electronics. And the lowest, but these two categories are growing quite fast, are OTC pharmaceuticals and FMCG, so all the retail. Of course, but because of the COVID, everybody started shopping online for these products as well. Where we are lacking, the whole region, not only Slovenia, so Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, they're all the same. Where we are lacking behind Europe is especially on conversion rate. So the average conversion rate of a user in Europe is 1.7%. So out of 100 users, 1.7% of users will actually complete a purchase online. In Slovenia or in our region, this is around 0.7, so basically 3 times slower. And one thing that is clearly shown here is the gap between online performance on desktop devices versus mobile devices. So 70% of users will access the website, the content, through mobile devices, but only 20% of transactions are made online. Are made over mobile devices. Majority are made over desktop devices. Why is that so? Majority of reasons are somehow related to user experience and security on the website. So people don't see the product details, the navigation is difficult on the mobile devices, they cannot browse multiple screens and multiple websites, it's too difficult to input all the details and so on and so on. But we should work on that because 70% of all the traffic again is coming from mobile devices. And all the growth of sessions is coming again from mobile devices. So from 2019 to 2020, the overall growth of sessions on the website was around 40%, but all of this growth is coming from mobile devices. There's a major difference how people are actually using or accessing internet today versus how they did like 6 or 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, majority of us were accessing web or digital content through desktop devices. So there was a huge peak in terms of the sessions between like 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. when we were in the office. Now this peak is basically flattened because everybody is on mobile. We are seeing the same numbers of users from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. So you need to be present online throughout the day. One other thing that mobile change is what's going on search. On Google search, majority of clicks when people are searching for a specific keyword, specific query, are not, the majority of searches do not result in clicks on the website because Google is actually moving towards providing all the answers, all the content on search results themselves. So around 60% of searches, they don't result in clicks. Only 35% of users will click on a specific page and go to the website. And this means that digital experience is slowly moving from being on the desktop to being on the mobile. And our goal as a, let's say, marketing agency or the client side as well should be in improving customer journey. This is a total mess currently and we need to make sense of it. So when users are traveling throughout the consumer decision journey, they have multiple touch points between the brands and the user itself, and these are broken down into different small segments we call micro moments. These micro moments, and there are lots of micro moments on the consumer decision journey, and these are defined by three different, let's say, values. One is understanding of the intent of a user. So we need to know what user intent is. The second is understanding the context of a user. So where is he, where is she, what's the story behind her. And the second, or the last one, is the immediacy. Users want immediate answers. They are not willing to wait another day or 2 days to get the answers for their inquiry. And we need to start asking ourselves, do we really know who our users are? Because there are so many different touch points. There is mobile website and mobile consumer decision journey. Then it's desktop. Then we have the loyalty cards. Then we have the CRM in our offices and so on. These systems are not connected. So currently we are not creating this single customer view. And if we don't have a single customer view, we don't know how users are actually behaving. So we need to pay attention to three different stages or three different phases. Each user, each step, and each second. Each user means that it really is important that we understand what specific user wants, needs, what's the concept of this specific user, and we are trying to move towards personalization of the content, of the experience for each specific user. Each step is basically being there for user on all different channels and properties and devices, not just being on a desktop and we don't have a clear mobile website or a useful mobile website and so on and so on. So we need to be present all the time. And the last one, each second, means that we need to pay attention to the speed, not only or mainly focus on the website, because nobody's willing to wait 15 seconds for the website to load. We need to we need to focus on how to speed up our website so Google will serve it faster, we will be ranking higher on Google, and user experience will be better at the end. So users are expecting more from digital. It does not necessarily mean that we need to focus only on pricing, and being on digital is not enough. We need to focus on product quality as well, and removing all the frictions, but more about that later. Everybody is trying to increase online revenue because of the corona situation, this speed up a bit more, but it's basically only two things we can do as a business. So if we want to grow online revenue, one thing we can do is acquire more users. The second thing is convince our existing customers to buy more often for you. A majority of users or majority of clients for the last decade or so were focusing getting more users, acquiring more users. And even in that area, I think people or companies were too focused on just getting the users to the website, just investing more and more and more money on Google, on Facebook, on different paid advertising. Just get the users to the website and then the miracle will happen. It won't. Even in this area, we should focus on consumer decision journey. So what we are doing with users when they are on the website is the content prepared for them. Are we optimizing user experience? Are we focusing on conversion of the website? But in my opinion, even more important is focusing on our existing clients and trying to convince them to buy more often from you. So users are shifting towards user behavior. So in the past, as I said, majority of business models were focused on one-time customer revenue stream, which meant that a specific customer bought the product for you and you should make a gross margin or profit on this transaction. But because the conversion rates are dropping and the cost of advertising is going up, this model does not work anymore. So we need to shift towards the retention model, where we will be looking at how users are actually profitable for our business throughout the longer period of time. So we acquired users, specific user 1 with client acquisition costs, but then we have multiple touch points, multiple transactions where we actually make profit. So this means that the e-commerce journey is changing, and we have different phases of user journey. So one is the addressable audience, when we know who we want to attract to the website. The second phase is the visitor of the website, and then we have one-time user, one-time customer, and active customer, and churn customer. So basically we are moving towards retention models. The big problem here is, especially with B2B, that the period between transactions could be quite long. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 1 year or even more. That's why we need to build additional KPIs to track where users are, from first purchase and second purchase to actually, when we are trying to retain the users, evaluating this customer engagement score. And how are we doing this is by implementing and tracking users' behavior throughout the consumer decision journey. And calculated, are they coming to the website, are they reading our emails, are they clicking on the ads, and so on and so on. Based on that, new KPIs will arise. We need to pay attention and start focusing on the customer lifetime value, so start measuring how valuable specific customer is for you, how much are we paying for customer acquisition, so customer acquisition cost, what's the profitability score of a specific customer, what's the repeat rate, so how often are they coming back, what's the retention rate of specific segment of a customers, what's their average order value, and what's the client engagement score. If we have this, we can implement these metrics and these KPIs into our Google Analytics and other systems, and based on that we can start optimizing. So if we have all these new metrics, new KPIs in our analytics system, we can start building much more advanced segments. We can move from advertising to all the consumers the same content, although they are in the different stages of consumer decision journey, we can move from that to much more segmented advertising. And of course, in the past there were a couple of, let's say, quite standard segmentation that were done. First was demographic, based on age and gender and education, geographic segmentation based on country and city. Then we slowly started to move towards the product segmentation based on what users or customers were actually interested in, TVs, laptops, and so on. But now, with all these advanced KPIs and advanced metrics that we have at our disposal, we can start segmenting and advertising based on that, based on physiographics like lifestyle and personality and characteristic of specific segments, and even more, behavioral segmentation based on where in the consumer decision our specific customer is. So we know where they are, we know what they are interested in, and based on that we can create much more targeted advertising, which will lead at the end towards much more successful business online. So to sum it up, here are my 7 recommendations for next year. First of all, digital is becoming a key driver for B2B. It's necessary to focus on throughout the line advertising and activities. It's not just being enough to have a website present on digital. Users need to see that you're there, you need to be in front of their eyes. They are expecting that you will support them throughout the consumer decision journey, to be there for them. The second thing is you need to find your USP. As I said, you might have a great USP in offline world, but online this is much different, because users can basically switch between providers from around the world. So being online is not your USP. Even a good price is not your USP. You need to invest in developing what's so special about your offering, your company, so users will go and do business with you. The third one is remove all frictions. We should focus on the last mile. So just advertising is not enough. We are seeing a lot of issues on the website, and users are trying to, let's say, submit inquiries to complete the transactions, but because quite a lot of companies were not focused in developing a great user experience online, users are having problems there. So you should remove all the frictions there. Next, there are no impulsive conversions in B2B. B2B consumer decision journeys are much longer, much more complex, and you cannot try or not expect that quick results. So I know that majority of B2B businesses in the past relied on fairs, shows, and actually going on a meetings to the client. All these are basically gone due to the new restrictions and the new business environment. And we need to somehow find new ways how to do the same with digital marketing. But you cannot expect quick conversions. People, customers are still the same. They need to think about your products, about what their needs are, and these conversions or these journeys are much longer, and we again need to be there throughout the journey. Online consumer journey is different. As I said, top of mind is really important. If people or customers find you and want to think about you when they are searching for specific supplier, specific product, it's going to be hard for you to convert them at the end. User segmentation is really important. Not all users are equal, and if you are going to treat them all as equal, your advertising, your digital marketing will be not as successful as it could be, and it's going to be really expensive for you to advertise online. And the last one is invest in data. Data will be the new battlefront in the future, and the future battle, the future competitive advantage will be built on top of the data that you are starting to gather today. And to conclude, my final recommendation is stop focusing on getting more and more users on the website. I'm not saying stop advertising. I'm saying stop focusing only on that and focus more on converting the users that you already have on the website. Thank you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to write me an email or contact me on any social media.